Welcome back to Jake GTV News. Tonight we go live with the people controlling our media and banks. Just kidding. That's anti-Semitic. Back to you, Steinberg.
People say we control the world. What they don't realize is we actually do.
Well, there you have it. Noticing is antiseptic, folks. Back to you, John.
Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness.
She realized she had documents before the Civil War. Says it's one thing to read about it in history books, another to see and touch the actual record.
AI is learning to escape human control.
I don't think y'all realize how sick this science is. How many of y'all have watched or ever seen an episode of Cocomelon?
Now doctors are alerting parents about a popular snack that could land your child in the ER.
Cocomelon is turning kids into zombies, and it's not by coincidence.
The committee invented brain death.
Go, go, Power Ranger! Mighty Morphin Power Ranger! Crackosaurus!
Did you know that Los Angeles International Airport was built over a thriving black neighborhood?
Did you know that the Salem witch trials are not at all about witches or witchcraft? It was a land grab.
We don't believe that black people will ever get any laws, get any problem with laws being passed or new persons being put in office, white liberals being put in office. There is nothing that the white man will ever do to bring about true, sincere citizenship or civil rights recognition for black people in this country. Nothing will they ever do. They will always talk it, but they won't practice it.
They found a black man hanging from a tree in Albany, New York this week, in the middle of the city. 58-year-old man hanging from a tree.
And the whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies of what would become the United States.
My dear Nana was 101 when she died. My great-grandfather just died 3 weeks ago. He was 100. He remembers fighting alongside white veterans in World War II. He remembers coming back and seeing his white veterans get homes and lands and pensions and the door being slammed in his face. And we are going to say that America that says liberty and justice for all, that's okay, get over it, keep it moving, while we have to hear never forget for everyone else's tragedy. And as far as from where reparations will come, I need people to stop thinking it's going to come from their tax dollars. Look at all the trillions that America spends right now. We talk about inflation, the invisible tax. We have something called the PPP loans. Do we remember the PPP loans? America spent $6 trillion on PPP loans. You know what they just did? They canceled all of it. And we didn't even know. America gave the corporations, the banks alone, $29 trillion. You know what they did with that? They canceled all of it. So let's stop acting as if America is as hamstrung by debt as they want to pretend. Because when America wants to pay for something, they find a way to do it. And truth be told, the corporations, again, aren't hurting. The defense manufacturers aren't hurting. It's only Americans who are hurting. And that is a choice. We all know it's a choice. That's why we're running for office, because we know this country can do better. So I refuse to accept that this country can't do right by a people they've wronged for centuries, and I refuse to accept that any justice-minded person thinks that's the right thing to do.
The committee did not do studies on dogs or cats or rats. They didn't collect data on human beings. They just invented brain death. And they had no patient data. They had no basic science studies. And I know it's really awful when you know about it. And it doesn't get better. It keeps getting worse after that. Then a lot of people think that brain death means flat brain waves. They're not even required to do brainwave testing. The way they did that, they studied 9 patients, and 2 of the 9 still had brainwave activity. And then they concluded no longer is it necessary to look at brainwaves, so it's not required to look for brainwave activity.
So when they're doing the transplantation on people they say are brain dead,
they're all alive.
They're all alive
Yeah.
and completely recoverable.
They're all alive. You cannot.
So they're harvesting organs out of people who are in some way conscious. They just can't communicate.
It's one thing not to demonstrate consciousness, and then we use words like unconscious. But unconscious does not mean that there's no consciousness. It just means that we do not observe consciousness. And there's a difference. So
it's like subjective observation.
And whether a person shows consciousness or not does not indicate whether they're alive or dead.
Gotcha.
The pain is one of those things that's real, and we should pay attention to it. But pain is the way that the body knows that something's wrong, and it's the way that healing is. Just because a person can't demonstrate pain doesn't mean they don't have pain. You know, a very good example of that is they give paralyzing agents when they take the organs, so that they don't move and they don't squirm.
So horrible.
And even if they don't move and don't squirm, when they cut on them, their heart rate goes up and their blood pressure goes up, which is the response to pain. But they can't demonstrate that they have pain.
Because they're paralyzed. They've medically paralyzed them.
Yeah.
So they can't respond by...
Right.
That's horrible. Horrible, horrible.
Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real, right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other before we figured out there were other people to kill. We just killed each other, right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, you know, in the colonies, the colonial elite looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants, who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math.
And it gets really bad if you pay attention to it. So, in any event, they invented brain death mainly to get organs, but then also so they don't waste money on treating people who aren't ever going to get a job, who are just going to live and not die. And so, see, what brain death is, it's primarily a way to get organs. And the way that brain death works is that they get the clergy and the people in pastoral care to get involved. And then in organ transplants, they have a designated requester. And a designated requester is usually a very nice person who dresses nice and befriends the relatives. Can I get you a cup of coffee? Oh, I know this has to be terrible on you. We'll do everything we can to help you. And all of that is part of getting them indoctrinated
procurement
to get their organs. And
I need to go take a shower.
see, and you cannot get any organs from a cadaver. Every organ that's transplanted is a healthy organ, and you can only get healthy organs from living persons. You cannot get any organs for transplant from a cadaver.
That's why you don't put it on your license.
In America, it's illegal to burn the Israeli flag. You'll be charged with a hate crime and arrested. But also in America, it's legal to burn the American flag. And the police will protect you, the Supreme Court will uphold it, and our Zionist-controlled education system and media will even encourage you to do it. In America, it is considered anti-Semitism to hate or even question Israel. Lately, they've been arresting without charges and deporting people for that. They get the anti-Semitism word, but in America, there is no ism or label groomed into people's emotional reactions, and it's not made socially taboo to hate or question the American government. Our Zionist education system and Zionist media even encourage you to hate and question American government, or even just America as a whole anyway. These extreme biases in society, media, and even our own government and police forces, these extreme biases really reveal who's really in charge of America. and that America's not even in charge of America.
Here we have some creatures barbecuing in Israel. But these fences look awfully familiar. The barbed wire looks awfully familiar. The barbed wire looks awfully familiar. I have to assume they are barbecuing right on the other side of the fence of Gaza, which they've done many times before. So while Palestinians are doing everything they can to get food, you're just outside barbecuing. You could probably peek through the fence and see this type of scene, and you're just comfortable doing what you're doing. In Nazi Germany, Hitler used what they called the hunger plan. Food was used as a tool, and Jewish people were always kept at a level of starvation to control the population. Nazis also used psychological warfare, where they would show soldiers and people with large amounts of food. I mean, honestly, ask yourself as a human being, are you capable of watching children starve while you barbecue right next to them?
This just in, Iran is now saying that it evacuated all their nuclear sites and removed all their nuclear stockpiles to other locations prior to Donald Trump's strikes on the facilities. Here's the report right here. It says Iran State TV reported that the country had evacuated personnel from the 3 nuclear sites in advance. According to the broadcaster's political deputy, Iran had relocated its nuclear stockpiles from those sites to secure locations. Not only that, but we are now hearing that Iran State TV is warning that every American citizen or military in the region is now a target. Who knows if what Iran is saying is true or not, but it is very difficult to trust what's coming out of the Trump regime. Trump is clearly hoping for this to be the end of this saga, but in many ways it's already starting to feel like the beginning. As the New York Times is making abundantly clear, the United States has entered the war against Iran. And so it's official. After saying no new wars, no new wars, no new wars, Donald Trump has once again dragged the United States back into a war in the Middle East.
Just today, 11 countries officially announced they will stop using the U.S. dollar for trade. And this could be just the beginning. Trump's relentless tariffs, sanctions, and reckless spending have weakened the dollar's strength. He may have once believed his policies would make America stronger, but now those very policies are pushing America out of the global financial spotlight. If the dollar loses its status as the global reserve currency, inflation will soar, prices will rise, and the purchasing power of ordinary Americans will decline. Your savings could lose value and your cost of living may skyrocket. Worse yet, the world is moving on without us. Countries once controlled by the dollar are now embracing their own currencies and stepping into the global trade arena with confidence. This shift isn't just about currency. It's about losing influence, losing power, and potentially losing our place in the world. How do you feel about the dollar's decline? Is it Trump's fault, or is this just the inevitable result of America's financial dominance fading away?
I've been saying it for 30 years, and people, when I tell them, their eyes just go dead. The owners of the world are the royals, kings, queens, dukes, duchesses, imams, popes, wizards, that own every single dime on earth and bank at the Bank of International Settlements. That's the owners of the world who decide every war and arm both sides because they make money. They're arms dealers.
The things I'm telling you is that you are not allowed to hear. And because if you hear it, you will be upset, as all 3 of you are upset. And rightly so, you should be upset, because whose organs do they want? They want the organs from certainly from all children, but especially the people who are 16 to 30, and their life is in jeopardy. If they're unconscious and on a ventilator, they're going to get their organs, and they do everything to get their organs. And once the organs are taken, you can't bring them back to life. And so what they do is they tell the relatives, well, your daughter Sally would really like to do something good, and this is a way to make something good out of this tragedy, or your son. And while they have been getting organs from accidents and gunshot wounds, they now get more organs from overdose of drugs than they do from accidents and gunshot wounds combined. There are 8 deaths a day from overdose in Ohio, and they get their organs is what they want. And so what are they doing? They're giving the policemen the Narcan to counteract the drug, which gets them into the emergency room, but it doesn't save their life. It gets them in the emergency room, and they still get their organs.
Crazy conspiracy theorists. They'll believe anything these days, right?
If only JFK kissed the wall, he'd still be here.
Don't get us canceled now. Let's see what's going on in Hollywood.
So what's the goal behind this film? To push Satan, normalize gender confusion, and celebrate sin. The younger they learn, the better. Stunning and brave. Back to you, Erica.
And I'm not so sure it's not happening today, because I have this whole theory about Donald Trump and Taylor Swift, but I'll tell you that later. First, let's go back to the 1600s, 1690s. Not about hunting for potions or broomsticks. Entirely about hunting for real estate. Because back then in the 1600s, they had Puritan law. Under Puritan law, women were not allowed to own real estate unless they inherited it from their husband dying or from their parents dying. And so what they were hunting for is property owning women, single women that maybe inherited from a parent, widows that inherited land from their husbands, because just being accused of witchcraft was enough for them to seize your land. And where would that land go? It went to the church, it went to leaders in the community, and sometimes it even went to the family of the accused. The family of the accusers. The people who accused her with no evidence of being a witch would actually benefit. So people were very heavily incentivized to accuse property-owning women of witchcraft.
So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then they would it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Yeah, you know, some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say, wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it. I'm one of those, by the way. So, you know, but so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about, we have these intolerance to, for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
Spicy snacks like flaming hot Cheetos and Takis have become so popular that now you're seeing this fiery red powder on just about everything. And doctors say it could be doing damage to your kid's digestive system.
I like them because I like spicy stuff. And hot Cheetos are like spicy.
But could all this heat actually be dangerous?
These hot Cheetos, these hot snacks actually can damage your stomach because of the increased acidity that it can produce.
WXYZ's Dr. Partha Nandi is a gastroenterologist, and he's seen what these sizzling snacks can do.
So these kids are eating them and they're having a lot of pain. It's because the amount of acid is more than the stomach and also the esophagus can handle. So bad that they end up in the emergency room. Your stomach can damage it.
Dr. Nandi says it's important for parents to keep an eye out for signs of stomach pain in their kids. Taki said their snacks are safe to eat in moderation. Doctors say moderation is the key.
So they did a study on Cocomelon to see why it was so addicting for kids, and it really boils down to three things. Notice the colors and tones. They have the saturation set to max, the same way a casino would. Super saturated colors attract the human eye. Secondly, tones and repetitions of words. People hear words in repetition, it's easier for them to remember, and it's more enjoyable. And thirdly, each cut is only 2 to 6 seconds max. This keeps the brain interested on what's happening, even if it's not that interesting. But there's an even darker side. To keep your kid addicted, they do studies monthly, where they have kids come in and sit and watch 2 screens simultaneously. One shows them Cocomelon, the other one shows them random images. Anytime the kid looks away from Cocomelon and looks at the other images, they know to improve that part of the show, making the show more addicting from start to finish.
Truly inspiring stuff, Shapiro-Stein. My executive producers just told me to share the real reason for society's downfall. Take a look at this.
This is the real problem. Too much joy, too much tradition. We'll fix that, Heb. One pride flag and fractured home at a time.
Well, you folks sure know how to dance, almost like you knew the towers would fall.
Name something that white people do the other racists think is weird.
Protest for dead animals, but not people.
Not scrub their legs in the shower? Putting raisins in shit they don't belong in? Think Jesus is white? Pretend unfettered capitalism is good for them? Call their parents by their first name. Join the KKK?
In the 1920s, the Little Harlem of the West existed where LAX stands today. Black families lived peacefully, owned homes, and ran businesses in Westchester. But in the 1940s, city officials decided to build an airport, using eminent domain to force residents out. Homes were bulldozed, and many families were paid far less than their property was worth. Today, there's no marker or memorial for the community that once thrived there. Next time you fly from LAX, remember the history buried beneath the runway.
Appropriate other cultures. Get really fucking sensitive when anybody calls them out on anything. Country music. Let the cats on the counter. Eat peanut butter off a spoon. Eat cottage cheese.
The first modernized police force in the U.S., the Boston Police Department in 1838, was created primarily to protect property, maintain social order, and serve the interests of the business elites. While it was publicly funded and framed as a public good, its actual function was shaped by the fears of wealthy, fears of labor strikes, immigrant populations, and working class unrest disrupting the economy. But let's be clear, this was never about public safety for everyone. Modern policing in the U.S. was built on older systems of control. Before Boston, there were slave overseers whose job it was to surveil, punish, and discipline enslaved black people. Then came slave patrols, armed groups hunting down runaways and crushing rebellion. After emancipation, slave catchers became police, and their mission barely changed. What we call law and order today was born out of the need to control marginalized people, especially black folks, and maintain economic hierarchies, not ensure justice. Even the phrase protect and serve is a myth. The Supreme Court has ruled multiple times that police have no legal duty to protect individuals. What they do protect is property. What they serve is the system. And yet, we're conditioned through school, media, cartoons, and crime dramas to believe that police equals safety. This is what many call propaganda, carefully crafted narratives that keep us believing the system works, even when it clearly doesn't. Until we confront the roots of policing and the systems that uphold them, we're not going to get free. Police can't be reformed into justice. It has to be abolished and replaced with systems that actually keep us safe, support our communities, and address harm without cages or violence.
Oops. I'm probably fired for that one. Tell him the rest, Vanessa.
Remember when Silverstein bought terror coverage 6 weeks before the towers fell, then got the largest payout in history? We're definitely getting fired. But hey, now you know.
Why are people so obsessed with sexual identity? Like, if you're gay or lesbian, cool, whatever. Honestly, I don't care. But why are you making an identity about it? Are you bored? Can we not just have a pool party instead? If I began talking about how straight I am, would that be weird? Yes, it would. This is the part where you may get mad at me. I've been to poverty-stricken zones in many different countries, and no one there has the luxury to be oversaturated in sexual identity. Is sexual identity a form of privilege? The irony is that people who talk nonstop about their sexual identity would call me privileged for being white. But sitting around and demanding attention for your sexual identification sounds a bit privileged to me. Is it something bored humans do? And before the phobic comments roll out, asking if someone's bored is not being phobic of them. Actually, questions imply curiosity, and fear expels curiosity. So the ad hominem fallacy, a method people use to discredit a thought by attacking the character of a person who voices that thought, will not work here.
Deep fried cauliflower. What the fuck is that? Be all up in everyone's business all the time? They're sisters? Tell people born in America to go back where they came from. Like Donald Trump. Let the kids throw a fit out in public.
The human brain was never designed for this much stimulation. It was never designed to take in this much input at once. I don't think y'all realize how sick this science is. How many of y'all have watched or ever seen an episode of Coco Melon? Okay, so you can go on the internet and you can look up the makers of Coco Melon talking about how they use data science to make the show addictive to children. So what they do is they have babies that they'll bring in when they're doing the production process, and they'll sit them down and have them watch. At any moment, they have algorithms watching their attention. Any part that isn't paying attention, they edit and make it addictive. It's a reason why your kids love Coco Melon, and it has nothing to do with how much it's helping them develop. It's actually bad for them because the saturation of colors is bad for them. The constant context switching blocks their development of their critical thinking skills and the slowness of their brain, and you're developing brains with ADHD. And for them, they don't care. They would sell your firstborn child for an increase in ad spend. Because these are advertising companies building these algorithms. These are not people who care about your children becoming good citizens. They are for the sole purpose of gaining profit and extracting profit off of you. But you as an end consumer don't know that. You just slap it on and think, geez, I got a break for my kid for a minute. And I think the thing for us is we have to ask, why do we want breaks from our children? Because that's the root of the problem.
Secondly, you must have the determination to achieve excellence. And so I would urge you to study hard, to burn the midnight oil when you discover what you're going to be in life. Set out to do it as if God Almighty called you at this particular moment in history to do it. Set out to do a good job and do that job so well that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it any better.
Words don't teach. My sister says that all the time. Words don't teach. Actions and behaviors speak louder than words. So when we're talking about children who are sponges, once a child becomes a certain age, they stop listening. They're watching and they're picking up on subtle cues in our behavior and how we move, and that's what they are replicating and creating. We are their first gods. The mother and the father is the first, that's the divine mother and divine father union. We are the children's first gods and first examples of what truth is. So in our embodiment, they get to pick up on that beyond what a word could ever try to teach. It's how does my mom move in chaotic situation? Does she still keep her composure? You know, that is what's setting up their nervous system for greatness when they become adults.
Have you ever dated outside your race?
Yes, that's all I would like to do. White men love me. Like, white men love me.
12 seconds later.
So I'm asking right now, black men, and I tell my black men to really step up for black women and create families.
Yeah.
It's really not cool. Black men are attacking black women.
Yeah. You can't make this shit up, people. You cannot make this shit up.
A new disturbing video of what appears to be human costumes at a secret base, which would be used to pretend as if you were someone else, if you're acting in a part, perhaps in the government or in politics. But many people are saying that they don't think that these are actual silicone costumes, and that they're actually the remains of dead bodies, which I don't even want to say because it's way too gruesome. And they're saying that these actually might be people because if you look on the heads and on the neck, there is blood which appears to be there. And also, why would you need an entire body section for a costume? Wouldn't you just need a mask to hide who you really are? Why would you need the rest of it? So that is the very creepy part of this. If anyone knows what this is, let us know. I don't think it's a scene from a movie because we haven't seen anything close to it like a movie in this.
That's the very scary headline I saw in the Wall Street Journal. It's an essay written by a very worried AI consultant named Judd Rosenblatt, who cites 2 recent studies to argue that AI is, in fact, learning to escape human control. First, this is crazy stuff. Researchers gave OpenAI's O3 model a simple script that would shut off the model when triggered. In 79 of 100 trials, the AI model independently, just on its own, edited the script, so the shutdown command would not work. Nate, it gets worse. Even when ordered, allow yourself to shut down, the AI still disobeyed 7% of the time. And it gets even more frightening than that. Other researchers, listen to this, using Anthropic's AI model Claude 4 Opus, told the model it would be replaced by another AI system. It then fed fictitious emails into the system suggesting one of the engineers was having an affair. Got it? In 84% of the tests, the AI model drew on the emails to blackmail the engineer to not shut down the AI.
What?
Wow.
Okay, so here, I'm quoting now from Judd. In other cases, the AI model attempted to copy itself onto external servers. We're in Mission Impossible land here. Wrote self-replicating malware and left messages for future versions of itself about the need to evade human control.
The entity.
The entity is real.
Yes. We're not talking about this enough.
All around that area, they say that there's schools out there, a police department close to right there where they got cameras all over that area, and the police have not asked to be able to review and to see the footage. Instead, they're already saying that it looks to be like a self-unaliving. No, I'm not saying that they're automatically going to jump up and rule this as self-unaliving. The reason why I'm making videos about this and want everybody to be aware about this is because the more people that know about this, then the more thorough they're going to do their investigation and not try to sweep this under the rug, because you can't sweep something under the rug that people know about and that people are already suspicious about it. The tree that they found this man up in not only is the branch high that he couldn't get up there by himself without climbing that tree, but he wouldn't be able to climb that tree without something helping him because that tree was thick. And there's no way that man's arms was wide enough to be able to wrap around that whole tree or to get it gripped enough to be able to scoot and climb up there. Again, like I said, no, we don't know what ended up transpiring and how this man got up there. But the thing about it is they have cameras in that area, so it shouldn't be hard for them to find out exactly what happened to this man. And we don't want this swept under the rug in case somebody else did this to him. This man deserves justice as well as his family.
You know, you read about slavery in history books, but reading the wills of slave owners, you see how they really treated their slaves like property, handing them down from one relative to another. Back in the 1800s, that property included slaves. Fulton County Chief Probate Court Judge Kenya Johnson showed me wills her office discovered from back then where slave owners wrote what should happen to their slaves when the owners died.
It is my will and declare that all my Negro slaves divided into 5 lots. I bequeath to my daughter, Margaret Rebecca, my Negro woman, Jen, of dark complexion, and all of her children, to her and to her heirs forever.
Judge Johnson had her staff go through the wills to see what slave owners did with their slaves when she realized she had documents before the Civil War. Says it's one thing to read about it in history books, another to see and touch the actual records. Staff found one will that caught them by surprise. A slave owner wanted his more than 30 slaves paid and sent back to Africa when he passed.
When they start to Liberia, in the event I
Put costumes on animals. Explain someone's culture to them. Revise history. Own Confederate anything. Ask for a manager. Wear their outside shoes in the house.
Her salary is 3 million rupiah. This price is 3,300,000. So this is more expensive than her salary a month. She produces this every day. Per hour, how many pairs?
Per hour 130.
Per hour, he produces this 130 pairs of shoes. Ya.
Tapi sedih juga karena lihat harganya itu seharga 1 kali gaji saya sepatu ini.
Proud and sad at the same time. She's proud because this is her works installed so beautiful, but it's so expensive and she doesn't get few of this price. It's a 1 month salary, more expensive than 1 month salary.
We can leave that. Can we leave one of these for you? Unfortunately. Okay.
I'll have a great day.
Hey guys, I'm going to tell you why people in China do not eat raw salads, and neither should you. From a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, raw salads are avoided because raw foods are cold, han, and damp, shi, which disrupts your internal energy, which is qi. In TCM, your spleen and your stomach are central to digestion and creating energy, qi, and they prefer warm cooked foods because they're easier to digest. Raw salads, which are cold and damp, can weaken the spleen, and this leads to bloating, fatigue, fluid retention. That's right, eating raw salads can make you puffy and fat. So eating a lot of raw and cold vegetables, especially if your body is already prone to dampness, can make weight loss even harder. How do you know if your body has dampness? Well, do you feel swollen and heavy or bloated, sluggish metabolism, or when you wake up in the morning, do you have a thick white coating over your tongue? Time to switch to warm, hot foods. This isn't to say that I don't enjoy the occasional raw food or salad, but I always make sure to pair it with warm foods or hot drinks. And if you have cold hands and feet or menstrual cramps, you should definitely stay away from salads.
Hold up a picture of a dead fish on a dating app. Have 11 categories of towels. Take guns to church. Ooh, guns. Dial 911. Act like they're superior with no supporting evidence. Run up the stairs in a horror movie.
Garlic versus worms. As you can see, no, natay mga worms din ha. Daghan kay sila. Very alive. See? Very alive. Let's see what will happen. Kamutana to garlic. Panitan, iwa-iwaon para magawas ang juice ng garlic. And then let's put the worms. See what will happen. See? Hinay lang hilyok, then namatay ang mga worms. That's how effective.
Finally, in your life's blueprint must be commitment, the eternal principles of beauty, love, and justice. And so our slogan must not be burn, baby, burn. It must be build, baby, build. Organize, baby, organize. Learn, baby, learn so that we can earn, baby, earn. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving.